My name is Wendy Campbell-White, and I'm the Legislation Content Manager at LexisNexis. Today I'm looking at the legal framework of the National State of Disaster to provide some context for the current restrictions on our activities during the pandemic and assist you to locate the latest legislation as it is released. Specifically, I will look at the Enabling Act, the Disaster Management Act 57 of 2002, and the current status of the general regulations that were recently declared unconstitutional. The Disaster Management Act provides in Section 27(1) for the designated minister to declare a national state of disaster, where, inter alia, existing legislation does not adequately equip the national executive to deal with the disaster. Subsection 5 also provides that the declaration lapses 3 months after it has been declared, unless it is extended by the minister before it lapses for 1 month at a time. The Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, as the designated minister in terms of the Act, declared a national state of disaster due to the COVID-19 pandemic on the 15th of March this year in Notice 313. This state of disaster has already been extended to the 15th of July by Notice 646. The minister will be required to issue further monthly extensions if she wishes the national executive to continue managing the pandemic via regulations and independently of parliamentary processes and oversight. Section 27(2) of the Act permits the minister to make regulations or directions or authorize the issue of such directions concerning an extensive list of matters. Since the declaration of the national state of disaster, there have been over 160 notices gazetted in the Government Gazette by 19 different government departments or entities, all providing regulations and directions relating to the national state of disaster. All national state of disaster legislation is available free to Lexis Library customers under the dedicated research area. At the top of the research areas on the table of contents. The regulations are located under the department or entity that published them, plus, for a comprehensive view of all the legislation released to date, I can scroll down the What's New list. The latest notices are added at the top. The government department or entity that released the notice is listed on the left, and there is a link directly to the PDF on the right. I will look at some of these regulations in more detail in future sessions, but for now I'm going to focus on the general regulations issued by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. To see a consolidated view of these regulations, I navigate to the consolidated version and can see the latest version, including all amendments. The general regulations were initially released under Government Notice 318 on the 18th of March 2020 and amended 5 times before its repeal by Regulation Notice 480 on the 29th of April. This notice replaced the general provisions applicable during the national state of disaster and introduced us to Alert Level 4 with effect from 1 May 2020. It was later amended by Government Notice 608, which added provisions for Alert Level 3 with effect from 1 June 2020. The latest amendments are always set out in teal-colored text for easy reference. These regulations also authorize various other ministers of specific portfolios to issue directions, as well as any other cabinet member as required. The general regulations in Notice 480 have recently been declared unconstitutional and invalid, save for certain exceptions, by the High Court of Pretoria. This note summarizes the status. This declaration of invalidity has been suspended for 14 days to give the minister time to consult with other cabinet members and review and amend the regulations. Exceptions, excluded from the order, relate to the prohibition on evictions and initiation practices and the closure of nightclubs and casinos. 11 million smokers will also be disappointed to note that the regulations pertaining to the prohibition on the sale of tobacco have been excluded from this order. When the minister complies and amends these regulations, you will find the PDF of the new amended regulation at the top of the list under both the What's New and Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs nodes, and the consolidated version will also be updated. This may well have happened by the time you watch this video, so be sure to access the latest version. I hope this helps you find the regulations you need and to stay up to date during the national state of disaster.